guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Once again, and on behalf of the President and people of Egypt, I would like to warmly thank you all for participating in the Egypt Economic Development Conference. When we had in mind setting a venue for launching the long-term vision and medium-term socio-economic program for Egypt, the future, we were keen to have all our friends in the room, investors and development partners alike. And your participation is an illustration that the feeling is mutual. Egypt has had long-standing relations with all its development partners, one that is based on understanding, fulfillment of mutual interests, and participatory engagement. We are keen to continue in this track, yet with an eye on our current priorities and targets for development. Honorable guests, fortunately, we are meeting today with first-hand signs of recovery for the Egyptian economy after 4 years of hardship and with an optimistic outlook to the future. As we have all heard yesterday from our President and in the morning from His Excellency the Prime Minister and my fellow ministers, bold measures have been and will still be undertaken by the government to carve the path for a restructured economy led by the private sector and disciplined by the achievement of sustainable and inclusive economic growth, the attainment of the much-aspired social justice, maintaining fiscal and monetary discipline, and undergoing major legislative and institutional reforms. We aim to achieve such an ambitious yet doable program through the mobilization of domestic resources and tapping into the great non-utilized potentials of Egypt, which are a wealth of human capital, a knowledge capacity, a large market, a solid banking and financial sector that has proven its ability to bear and overcome shocks, besides unexploited resources in the fields of tourism, industries, and services. But this does not mean that we stand alone. We rely on the support of both investors and Egypt's partners in development to unleash the new Egypt we have in mind. And toward this front, we have a specific track in mind for our future cooperation with you all. We need to work intensively together in the coming period to ensure the focus on the following priority aspects. First, achieving the development targets of the next period's priority sectors, in particular agriculture and land reclamation, water resource management, transport, infrastructure development, manufacturing, oil and gas, mining, housing, health, education, and vocational training and skill development and entrepreneurship. Development strategies for such sectors have been and will be clearly presented throughout the conference. Second, realizing the much-aspired social justice through designing inclusive social safety network and ensuring their effective implementation. The Ministry of International Cooperation is coordinating extensively with the Ministry of Social Solidarity to set up a comprehensive social protection network that is based on the coordination and integration between in-kind subsidies and cash-based social safety programs that directly address the poor and most vulnerable groups. And let me seize this opportunity to commend the great effort undergone by my colleague, Minister El-Ehwany, Minister of Social Solidarity, in collaboration with the World Bank to set up the conditional cash transfer program, which will be announced soon. Third, engaging the private sector aligned with the effort undergone to reform the business climate in Egypt as a means of restoring confidence to the Egyptian economy and attracting foreign and local investments. Measures undertaken in this regard include setting a legislative agenda that embarks on priority legislative reforms required for the enhancement of the investment climate in Egypt, settling the existing investment disputes between the state and investors, both foreign and local, in order to restore economic stability and confidence without waiving the state's rights or the right to fight corruption, and providing a set of incentives for investments such as land acquisition, free and special economic and industrial zones, and special geographical and sectoral incentives. In this regard, I would like to once again reiterate the extreme importance of further mobilization of private sector windows in your distinguished institutions. IFC is a good example in this respect, yet we need more focus on engagement mechanisms for medium-sized institutions. Tapping into Egypt's wealth of human resources through capacity building and human resource management is of quite importance to the Egyptian government. It is worth noting that Egypt is targeting the focus on the upcoming period on vocational training and skills development, as it is evident in the establishment of the new Ministry for Vocational Training, Education and Training. Lastly, utilizing our program for monitoring and evaluation of development cooperation finance in order to ensure that objectives are met efficiently, effectively, and sustainably. Dear all, we have a lot of work to do and targets to achieve, and I'm quite certain that you will be all support us in our endeavors for Egypt, the future. Before inviting our dear heads of the international financial institutions to give us their feedback on what has been proposed this morning by His Excellency the Prime Minister and my colleagues, the Ministers of Finance and Planning and the Governor of the Central Banking on our vision and our plans and the role of the financial institutions in this regard, let me, before invite the Parliamentary Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan, Mr. Kentaro Konon, to make few remarks, please. Mr. Kentaro, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Shukran jazilan li hadhihi dawa.
Thank you very much for this kind invitation. Thank you very much.
El-Ehwany, International Cooperation Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. To begin, I would like to express my appreciation for the fine efforts by the government of Egypt towards hosting this conference today, and I am confident of its success. I wish to take this opportunity to say Japan renews its sincere condolences to the Egyptian corpse victims in Libya and their families, and for the recent terrorist incidents in Egypt. Japan resolutely condemns all forms of terrorism and will continue to engage in combating terrorism in cooperation with the international community. This year, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Egypt, and that marked a new chapter in the history of the Japan-Egypt relationship. In the face of the recent terrorist incident regarding the murder of the two Japanese hostages, the people of Egypt extended strong solidarity to us. Once again, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude. Some might worry that Japan, because of the shock of this incident, would be hesitant to be involved in the Middle East. However, I promise that Japan will continue its cooperation towards the stability and prosperity of Egypt and the Middle East as a long-standing friend to the people of Egypt Thank you. And as a responsible member of the international community, in this context, Japan has announced its intention within the beginning 6 months of His Excellency President LCC's term to provide new yen loans of about $440 million towards the fields of water, transportation, and electricity for further development of Egypt. Today, I am pleased to announce that we have signed the exchange of notes for a Japanese ODA loan of about $49 million for the project for construction of the new dilute group of regulators. With Japanese technology, this project leads to effective use of some 17% of annually available water in the Nile for irrigation, improving agricultural productivity in Egypt. In the medical field, thank you. In order to construct an additional outpatient ward for an outpatient facility at the Cairo University Specialized Pediatric Hospital, constructed by Japanese assistance, the Japanese government's cabinet recently decided to newly provide grant aid of around $13 million. I am also pleased to report in the field of power and energy, the foundation of industry. Both Japan's public and private sectors will make a positive contribution to Egypt with the most advanced and eco-friendly technology in renewable energy, such as the construction of Hurghada photovoltaic power plant, as well as the electricity sector, including coal-fired power generation. Such government initiatives would never be realized without business involvement. Japan's direct investment to Egypt reached $66 million in a year, which marks the highest among Asian countries. And about 50 Japanese companies are actively operating in Egypt. The government of Japan intends to further support Japanese companies in Egypt through various plans, such as financing by the Japan Bank for International Cooperation and export credit by Nippon Export and Investment Insurance. Furthermore, Japan is now studying the possibility of contributing to large-scale infrastructure projects, including the Suez Canal Areas Development Project. We applaud the government of Egypt for the advances in economic and fiscal reform, as well as for its efforts for comprehensive economic development. I would like to express our commitment that Japan will continue to support Egypt and both public-private levels towards the stability and prosperity of Egypt. Ariaban Daiban Makum. Shukran Jazilan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This was another voice from the world, from Japan, to give political and economic support to Egypt. And now let me invite our colleagues in this panel. Mr. Jin Tsai, Senior Vice President and CEO from the International Financial Corporation, the World Bank Group. Dr. Abdlatif Al-Hamad, Director General and Chairman of the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development, Kuwait. Mr. Ambroise Fayolle, Vice President, European Investment Bank. Dr. Ali Abou Sabaa, Vice President from African Development Bank. Dr. Hafez Ghanem, Vice President for MENA at the World Bank. So I would like to welcome you all in this panel. And as I said before listening to the voice from Japan, that we have a lot of work to do and we have too many targets to be achieved, and that we are quite confident in Egypt that we will count on your support in our endeavors for Egypt in the future. So let me ask my question again. You heard, please. You have listened this morning to the vision and the plans of the Egyptian government as reflected by our Prime Minister and our colleagues. So my question is, what is your reflection on what you have heard so far from the government on its vision and program, and how do you see your distinguished institution in this picture? So, Mr. Jinsai, would you start, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Minister. It's very exciting to see the turnout of this conference. I remember I made my first visit right after the revolution. At that time, IFC's focus was trying to do everything we can as part of the World Bank Group to generate investors' interest in coming back to Egypt. And today, I couldn't be happier to see the interest is very strong. So, as you said, Minister, so many things to do in such short period of time. And from the international financial institutions perspective, I've been thinking, if we could say we helped to generate the interest, what will be the next stage? What will be our responsibility or our contribution? I would say we want to assist the government to really prioritize so many things. We need to really figure out what are the immediate steps we need to take to debottleneck the obstacles of the economic development. So when I think about it, we all know infrastructure is critical, particularly energy. And a lot of commitments, a lot of billings we talked about are going to come in. But I will say, I have not seen a country can build all the infrastructure purely based on foreign exchange, foreign capital. Because when you think of power demand, we're going to generate a lot of local currency. How we are going to make sure the investor will see in the future some of the currency can be converted to be repatriated, either serving the debt or paying dividends. Today, we do have some issues, even though the central bank governor this morning identified there have been a lot of positive steps taken by the government. So for us, I think in terms of building the infrastructure, among all the positive commitment for the projects, one thing we would like to work with the government is really to find a way to also mobilize local resources. We want to have local currency to mitigate foreign exchange risk. When you help to lower the risk, we all know the cost of capital will be lower. If Egypt can raise $8 billion in a few days to finance the Suez Canal expansion, I think we also need to find a way to mobilize many billions from local markets so to finance some of those infrastructure. I think it's critical as a part of the risk mitigant. And so that leads to the next step, which is how can we help to really develop the financial service, financial market, which I think is as important as building infrastructure. So this is one thing we want to focus on. The second area I think we are going to focus on from IFC's perspective is to identify the industry which Egypt has comparative advantage in the global value chain, to build that value chain, which is critical in our view to help to create sustainable jobs. At the end of the day, economic development has to be inclusive. We have to create opportunities for younger generation. So that's another area we're going to focus on. In doing that, I think there are several key areas, certainly access to finance, skill training, and also investment climates. Even though a lot of positive steps have been taken, I think there are still worries among investors in terms of how many jobs they have to get a permit, how they're going to acquire certain lands, and how many decisions will be based on the rules rather than discretion of certain bureaucrats. So these are the critical elements we need to focus on. I would say, hopefully next year when we have this conference, and we're not only have the excitement, we're also going to have really successful examples. I think in next 365 days, or maybe, I don't know when will be the next conference, successful examples will be super critical for Egypt to continue to carry the momentum to attract investment, both international as well as domestic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your comments are very valuable, especially that they come from an financial institution that deals with the private sector. Dr. Abdlatif Al-Hamad, you represent a very important partner to Egypt, which the fund, and I'm sure that your reflections on the vision and the policies of the government would be very valuable.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I was very much encouraged by the statements of both His Excellency the President and the Prime Minister today about the reforms that are taking place in Egypt. The Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development has been a major partner with Egypt. Up to now, we have financed approximately 56 projects to the tune of $4 billion in the past years. We look forward to being partner in the future, and we hope that we will be able to commit in the next 4 years, about $2 billion again for the projects in Egypt, especially in the infrastructure. Without infrastructure, no private investments, no development, social or economic development can take place at all. And therefore, we put emphasis on that. And so short of coming to say, unless the private sector does it, nobody should do it. I think it should be done first. And then if the private sector can do it, that's well and fine. We would encourage the private sector to play a role as a partner, but there will always be a role for the public sector to finance the infrastructure. We also look forward to being involved in other sectors in the economy. Up to now, our commitments have been in the 75% in power and the rest in other activities in the economy. We look forward to being involved with our partners, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the European Bank for Development, and other institutions to finance projects that are in all other sectors of the economy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abdlatif. Now, the role of the European Investment Bank. How do you see the role of the bank in the future, especially in light of what you have heard this morning and yesterday from our President and from our Prime Minister about the vision and the policies and the reforms that are underway in Egypt?
Many thanks, Minister. It's a real pleasure to be here. I found this conference quite impressive, very high-level attendance and a high quality of statements. What I found striking in terms of the reform process that has been described by the Egyptian authorities is how comprehensive it is. It touches upon many, many areas that are extremely important to restoring confidence and bringing investment back to help future growth and fight against unemployment. And we know this is the key issue. And from the tax reform to the energy reform to the healthcare to infrastructure, this is quite an impressive list of reforms. And you can count on the European Investment Bank to be at your side for this. The EIB is the Bank of the European Union, so their shareholders are the 28 member states of the European Union. And we have a very long-term partnership with Egypt that started back in 1979. This morning, Minister, we co-signed a joint declaration for future cooperation. And this is an exercise that has been done jointly with your team and with the Egyptian authorities to make sure that we are present in the fields where we can be of most value to the Egyptians. And these are mostly in the area of economic and social infrastructure, in particular energy, transport, waste and water wasting, but also in the development of the private sector, especially SMEs, and we also look forward to developing PPPs. The amount of projects that we have identified in the pipelines exceeds 2 billion euros, and we look forward to the implementation of these projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Further. Dr. Hafez.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Well, the World Bank is strongly supporting Egypt at this very important point in time. As you heard yesterday from our managing director, we intend to more than double our support to Egypt. Over the last few years, the World Bank's program in Egypt was about $500 million a year. Starting now, we have decided to move to $1.2 billion a year for the next 4 years. That is, our program for the next 4 years in Egypt is about $5 billion. The objectives of the World Bank in Egypt are straightforward: fighting and eliminating extreme poverty and supporting growth that is inclusive, shared growth that will touch all segments of society. So we are focusing on the inclusiveness aspect. For this year, we have already gone far in the preparation of 2 projects. There is one $400 million project for social protection to help. As I think you mentioned it in your opening remarks, Madam Minister, we have negotiated a $400 million project to support social protection and cash transfer payments to poor families. We are also completing the preparation of a $500 million housing project to support also moderate and low-income housing in Egypt. So our focus will really be on inclusiveness, on reducing poverty, and we are doubling our portfolio. Now, what is important, what we heard yesterday and today in terms of the plans and programs of the government is really very impressive. And what we look forward to is also partnering with the government to support enhancing implementation capacity. The plans and programs that were presented to us today are excellent. What we need now really is to work together to help implement them and to strengthen the capacity of the economic institutions to deal with this very ambitious vision and very ambitious program. And we will be there to partner with you and also working with our colleagues in other institutions. I'm happy to be on the same panel with Dr. Abdlatif Al-Hamad because the Arab Fund is an important partner for us at the World Bank, as well as the African Development Bank and the European Investment Bank. Of course, IFC is our sister institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hafez. And now the turn of Dr. Ali Abu Sabaa.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency. And let me first start by presenting the apologies of President Donald Kaberuka, who had promised to be here with us today for unforeseen circumstances. So please accept our apologies. Now, what we have heard over the past couple of days now is extremely encouraging. We have seen very strong political will. We have seen also a set of implementation and investment plans, And we have seen a committed government that is willing to walk the talk. So at the same time, we're seeing strong pledges, both in terms of foreign direct investment, but also we have seen a lot of business deals, happening as we speak. People are signing things all the time. So what is it that we can do as your development partner, long-standing development partner? As you know, Your Excellency and colleagues, the African Development Bank, Egypt is the second largest shareholder, and we intend to work with you to make sure that you successfully implement these plans. Now, in terms of what the bank can do, we've heard all the right things. So the challenge will be really in implementation. So what we would suggest for the government is that we continue to work with you on the governance reforms. I think you have taken very bold steps to try and institute a new governance environment with very bold decisions to rationalize the subsidy programs, both in the fuel and the bread. You have taken a number of steps to improve the investment climate, but there is a lot more to be done. And actually, being able to share experiences from across the continent, countries that have gone through some of those difficult journeys, and then bringing this experience to Egypt and help not repeat some of the challenges that some of these countries have been there. Questions of PPP, I think much of the pledges and commitments, especially from the private sector, goes along the PPP lines. And we in the bank have concluded almost 50 deals since 2006. And believe me, I mean, it has been quite a challenge, and we've learned some lessons ourselves. And we'd be more than happy to help accompany the government in closing some of these deals, so that when you sign these long-term contracts, we share this experience and we put it at your disposal. Africa 50, the new instrument that we have put, up to $10 billion of resources could be made, and the greatest thing they could help is to help the government take some of the project ideas to bankability, so that they become more appealing to the investment banks and other partners. Maybe the last point I would mention is that the African Development Bank has been observing the very positive progress of the government, and we have been able to plan an investment of $500 million in 2015 in the priority sectors that the government will decide, mainly in the areas of energy, skills development, agriculture, and investment climate. Last, we would hope to be able to match this amount in the future, of course, subject to the progress trajectory continuing along the same path.
Thank you very much. As we can see, our colleagues on the panel are confirming that the vision that they have heard yesterday and today from the President and the Prime Minister and the ministers are very ambitious. They are encouraging, and at the same time they are doable, and that they will give support to Egypt in implementing all the policies and programs. So we are happy to confirm the support of the international financial institutions to our plans and projects. Maybe I will see this opportunity to ask a question. It's not really a question, but sometimes it's a concern among people. Sometimes people would say that the projects and the sectors financed by the international financial institutions do not align or do not match with the priorities of the country. We have been always confirming that the decision to finance any project from any international financial institution is a decision that is agreed upon on both sides. But sometimes there are concerns that international financial institution wouldn't support or wouldn't finance a project if they are not in their own interest. So maybe I'd like to discuss a little bit this issue so that people who have concern about this issue would be comforted. So,
okay, well, maybe just a real life example. I think the African Development Bank delegation here was basically following all the developments, and we will be continuing to follow the sectoral discussions, but we will be sending a delegation to discuss with the government so that we update our program in light of the new developments that we are seeing happening here in the Congress. And this will be an opportunity for us to have a conversation and for the government to decide where is the best place you would wish to place the resources we'll make available for you. So that's a commitment we're making from the African Development Bank.
And from the Kuwait Fund?
Well, there is no development without being owned by the people involved. Yeah. The process of development is something which a country has to decide for itself. We respect the priorities of the country concerned. We may agree on certain projects within that priority range. We may not do some other projects which may be of priority, which are not within our own framework of operations. But emphasis on poverty, emphasis on infrastructure, emphasis on education, emphasis on human resources, these are priorities which no country can do without it and have economic development. We in the Arab Fund respect what Egypt does. We've always had dialogue with Egypt. We've always respected the priorities set by the government of Egypt, because you know best what is better for Egypt. Who are we from the outside world to tell you what you should do for yourselves? We have to respect your priorities. We have to respect your decisions. And we don't necessarily have to agree with all your decisions. But then there is enough room for agreeing on projects which we can finance together.
Okay. I see among the International Finance Corporation, I think we are fairly unique. We finance companies. We don't finance the government. So for us, we view our role as a catalyst to promote entrepreneurship, to help the country to debottleneck infrastructure issues. So over the years, I think our focus has always been working with the private sector clients, both domestic and international. And I think we do interact with government, and through those interactions, we understand what are the priorities. Look, with 4,000 people, we have been operating globally. When we look at Egypt, we look at the challenges. I think we understand the sectors where the investment need the most. So when you look at over many years, our job has always been focused on what we call the prioritized area. You know, as I said earlier, after the revolution, we knew a lot of investors are very scared to come to Egypt. So over the last 3 years, we have put more than $1 billion into the private sector in the economy. And going forward, we are going to do more. But the most value add from IFC, not only our capital, both equity, debt, and other instruments. I think the most important is using our, what I call the global network to identify the area we can help to spur the economic growth the most. So I would say our investment has been and will be continue to be consistent with the priorities of the government development agenda. Although we are financing the business, I often want to compare an analogy in economic development. The government set the stage. I think over the last 24, 48 hours, under the President Sisi and the Prime Minister, we have set a great stage. And the player, the singer, will be private sector. So we are very happy to be a supporting force to make this opera really successful. So that's, we are very committed to that.
Thank you very much.
The joint declaration that has been signed this morning by EIB and by you, Madam Minister, on behalf of the Egyptian authorities, in this joint declaration there is the word joint. And it is joint because it has been indeed discussed between the two parties. And we've tried to identify those sectors where the Egyptian authorities told us they would be very interested in continuing investments from EIB, and that are also in our core priorities in terms of financing. So it's absolutely clear that there is, I think, no prospect for a fruitful partnership if there is no really cooperation between the two parties involved. I would say also that what is important is that you see the partnership in the field, basically. We signed also this morning a loan with the National Bank of Egypt for 120 million euros. This is to support SMEs, mostly, through this credit that is given to the First Bank of Egypt. So I think that's also a way to show that we want to be as concrete as possible in our support, but also as close as possible to those who know best the needs in the field here.
Yes, I will echo quickly what all my other colleagues have said. We finance the projects at the request of the government, and our projects are executed by the governments. We are bankers for the government, so obviously whatever we fund must reflect what the government wants and its priorities. And today, if you look at the World Bank's portfolio, it is divided into two big areas. The first area is job creation and private sector development, and in that area, most of our funding is going to infrastructure, especially in the energy sector. And the second area is public service delivery, especially to the poor. And that, for example, would include our social protection project, as well as our work in the other social sectors. And so the focus on those two areas, job creation, social services provision to the poor, this has been selected based on our discussions with the government, and that reflects your priorities, Madam Minister.
Thank you very much. I have a last question. Most of the international or regional or Arab financial institutions have a financial arm for the private sector, and the private sector is here. So the question is, how can the private sector benefit from your institutions? Because most of the assistance we are talking about is usually directed to the government and to the public projects. So the question is, and I'm sure that this is a concern among people here, is how can the private sector benefit from your institutions?
Well, Your Excellency, this is an excellent question. For the African Development Bank, we've been acting in Egypt since quite a bit of time, and we have almost $6.9 billion of commitment in about 100 projects. Currently, the active portfolio for the bank stands at almost $2 billion, out of which 60% has been disbursed. This is basically split into the public sector side, but also a private sector window, which could finance anything from tourism projects to cement factory, steel factories, and anything in between. The possibility to access is that we have an office here. We have a resident office here in Cairo. Madam Laila Mokadem is our resident representative. And of course, I'm sure colleagues within the Ministry of International Cooperation could make the link, Engineer Hammam and other colleagues. But you can also, for substantive interventions, you could also access the bank's headquarters, where I am based in Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. And of course, the website is the most and easiest way to get information. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as time is a little bit tight, so maybe I will take one response from Mr. Sai, because...
We finance private sector companies directly. We can finance as little as $500,000. Actually, recently we have financed a lot of ventures in Egypt. Some of them are very successful. Or we can finance a larger infrastructure project directly. So our reputation, our brand has been well known. We have more than 100 people here. If you have any good project, just come to us, ifc.org. You can get our contact information. We'll be very happy to finance.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues and guests, as I said in the beginning, when we decided to organize this conference, we thought that in addition to the political support we need to have, and in addition to the participation of the private sector, it was very important for us to have our partners in development, the international financial institutions, to give us their indicating the support of Egypt's plans and vision. And I think after listening to the leaders and the presidents of the international financial institutions, I think we are confirming the support of those institutions to our vision and plan. And as we said, our plans are ambitious, but they are doable. And in order to do so, we will do it with the support of our partners in development. Thank you very much.